I am Arnau Galdeano, and now I will be presenting my essay on Thomas Hobbes and how his ideals relate with those of the bourgeoisie. So first, just a quick introduction. Let's put in context something that is going to be very important for this presentation. It's the fact that Thomas Hobbes did not live in a fully developed capitalist world. So nevertheless, we can see in his work how he appeals to liberal ideas, economically speaking. In this essay, we will see the way Hobbes' theory legitimates the actions of the bourgeoisie powers in the upcoming industrial revolution. We will analyze the true meaning of Hobbes' concepts, such as the protection of private property, the way he builds the social contract in an individualist way, and his idea of law. In doing so, we will expose how these definitions allow the pure benefit of the bourgeois class, giving them the absolute power to exploit their workers. So just have in mind that in 17th century England, the context was not that of the Industrial Revolution, nor the big bourgeoisie fortunes. Even though it's possible that Hobbes' goal was not to benefit the financial power, we can see his motives are way closer to said matter than the protection of the lower classes. So, with the help of the articles provided by the professor and some personal research, this essay tries to prove the correlations between the work of Thomas Hobbes and capitalist interests. Firstly, we must begin by stating what are the interests of the bourgeoisie in order to be able to detect them in Hobbes' theory. So, according to Britannica.com, Mashi's theory understands the bourgeoisie as a social class that plays a heroic role in revolutionizing history and modernizing society. However, it also seeks to monopolize the benefits of this modernization by exploiting the propertyless proletariat, and thereby creating revolutionary tensions. Therefore, we see this class will look for market opportunities, seeking for political stability and a free market independent of the state with low taxes or even no taxes and no barriers to the accumulation of wealth. Now, the question is set. Is Hobbes a bourgeoisie theorist understanding his context? Let's see how he defines what is the state of nature, the social contract, and the civil state. So this, let's say, transition. Well, he defines the state of nature as a state where there is no common power, and he says life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So in such a state, individuals have a right to all things, which leads to constant conflict. So once the commonwealth is established, once the social contract happens, individuals transfers their rights to all things to the sovereign, who then protects their property rights. Therefore, under the sovereign's protection, private property rights are established and maintained for the peace and security of society. So basically, Hobbes describes an awful world in the state of nature. So he says that this world, the state of nature, is driven by individualism, no cooperation, and when he has the chance to change that through the creation of the civil state, he simply advocates for the protection of citizens' life and the perfect conditions to fully exploit the lower classes. So he says the state of nature is an awful world, and we can, let's say, revert the situation in the civil state, but no, we're just going to leave it to give the perfect conditions for economic growth and to give freedom to the dominant classes to exploit the lower ones. So basically, my conclusion here is that Hobbes' civil state does not represent the true abandonment of the state of nature. It simply domesticates it. It simply gives it some rules. It simply makes it a regime. It simply structures it, but it does not kill it. Let's move to the concept of private property, which has a lot of correlation with what we just said. Basically, as mentioned before, Hobbes describes the state of nature as a solitary, poor, nasty, and brutish in short life, with the constant menace of everything going to waste in the state of war. There's the constant danger and the constant worry that everything is just going to blow up and it's going to be a war of all against all. So yeah, basically, one can clearly be surprised when the author states so firmly that the civil state must protect private property and almost in a sacred way. So the fact that Hobbes presents such a horrible world and he chooses to protect private property before anything else like such as, I don't know, maybe decent employment, it shows us where his ideals are. It tells us what classes he protects and where his interests lie. Let's move to how he defines the state and law and what the figure of the Leviathan truly means. Basically, in Hebrew and Mesopotamian mythology, the Leviathan is a gigantic mythical marine creature present in the Old Testament. In Christianity, this big monster is often associated with demonic acts in the name of Satan. So Hobbes uses the Leviathan as a metaphor for the state, which frightens and oppresses its citizens. And the way it does so is through law. So it's this big monster that eats and kills everything that is right in front of him. So Hobbes argues that the laws of the Commonwealth are the commands of the sovereign authority, so the Leviathan, and he asserts that the sovereign has absolute authority over its subjects and is responsible for creating and enforcing laws to maintain social order and prevent the return to the state of nature. So we've already previously discussed the true intention of Hobbes in avoiding the state of nature. And according to the author, laws established by the sovereign are binding on the subjects, and they must obey these laws in order to maintain peace and security within the Commonwealth. The sovereign's authority to create and enforce laws derived from social contract, though which individuals have to have transferred part of their rights and personal freedom to the sovereign powers in exchange for protection and security. So here, little by little, we begin to see how our author interprets what role the state should occupy in the civil state. He sees the sovereign power as a necessary evil, but an evil, and something we need to maintain as weakly as possible, but we need nonetheless. Now, in reading this and in analyzing this point, the first thing that came to mind is Adam Smith, because we see in, at least in this situation, they have a kind of close believing. Basically, I mean, yeah, obviously Adam Smith would come on the future, so it's a bit foolish to talk about Adam Smith when we're speaking, when we're talking about Hobbes, but when Adam Smith is considered to be the theoretical father of capitalism, and they both share this image of a fierce and frightening monster terrorizing everyone who stands before it. So understanding the need to keep it in line, but the need for it to exist, to avoid the state of nature. Let's jump to the conclusions. I once again feel the need to state that it's kind of foolish to believe that Hobbes had anything to do with the financial times of the Industrial Revolution and the massive wealth accumulation of the 19th and 20th centuries bourgeoisie. However, we can break down his theory to see how he benefits the economically powerful rather than the popular class. If we go back to the first lines of this essay, we will find a definition on the bourgeoisie and their interests. Remember what we said in the introduction. So through this analysis, we have been seeing how Hobbes allows this will to materialize. We have begun by seeing how Hobbes builds his social contract and civil state, and we have seen how the main goal of the sovereign power is to ensure private property rights and create the perfect ecosystem for economic growth. So with little to non-intervention of the state, with little to non-intervention of the state within the economy, the intention is to allow wealth accumulation. So this fits perfectly with our definition of the bourgeoisie's interests, since he leaves the door open for them to exploit their propertyless labor and monopolize the fortunes. We have also seen the same in the importance he gives to the preservation of private property and his understanding of the state and law. Hobbes' state is one that tries to be as small as possible, not interfering in day-to-day economic affairs, allowing the exploitation of the working class. This last statement goes so far beyond, he even refers to the state as the Leviathan, a monstrous mythological creature. So as we have gone through the author's main takes of his thesis, we have been able to correlate them to the modern ideals of class conflict of the 19th and 20th century, linking Hobbes' statements to the definitions of the bourgeoisie interests proposed in the first measures of the essays. So this is basically how we argue the fact that Hobbes is indeed a political thinker who favors the dominant classes, allowing them to freely exploit the labor of the popular ones and providing them with a perfect condition for economic growth, renouncing all kinds of proletariat revolution. So basically, that was the presentation of my essay, and thank you for listening.